Well, it's Monday again. Welcome, everyone, to the Monday Mindset. We are so glad that you've joined us, and I'm so glad another Monday has come around. I have with me here Kevin DeShazo. Kevin, how was your weekend?
It was a great weekend. It's been interesting. We've talked about the challenges we face in Oklahoma due to the ice storm and all that comes with the cleanup of an ice storm. But it was a great weekend. Spent some time with family. Amazing weather that we had this weekend. Was able to get outside. So it was a good weekend. How about you?
Well, good. Mine was really nice. I went to a high school football game. I hadn't been to one since my boys had graduated. I don't think. Well, anyway, it's been a while, and a friend of mine's son was playing, and it was just really nice. It's a small little school, so people were dispersed, and it was safe and all that. But it was just nice to be back in the swing of just regular, Friday night football. So
not much better than Friday Night Lights. That is for sure.
Right. And then my older son is getting married. So Saturday, some sweet friends hosted a little shower for he and his, and that was just really nice and fun. So it was a great weekend for me. So Kevin, I have a question for you. Do you have a favorite day of the week, like a day that you really, really look forward to?
Favorite day of the week? Honestly, I love Monday. I love Mondays and Fridays. I think Monday, I like new. I like it being a new week, new opportunity. I think we've created this thing of, you've got a case of the Mondays, and Monday is like this really negative thing. But for me, I think Monday, it's new, right? Last week is gone. It's over with. And so I love the newness of a Monday. Kind of the same thing with Friday. I love the anticipation of a weekend and what a weekend brings, kind of rest and recharge and be with people. So Mondays and Fridays.
Ah, love it. I'm kind of with you on Mondays. I don't know that I would say that is my favorite day. I really never thought about this question until I asked you, but I love routine. So, and I love predictability, and my Mondays are predictable, and I love that. And I like getting in the groove, kind of weekends I start to feel. And so I like just being productive. And so Mondays are really fun for me as well. So we've had a couple of really good weeks on Monday Mindset. You really helped me in some of the things I've been going, some of the hardships going on in my own life, just to remind myself that it's about how we respond more than what's going on in our life. Because if anyone wants to chat and tell us that your life is perfect, we would love to hear from you. But most of us have flawed lives, right, Kevin? With little things. And some of you have stories that are so unbelievable of what you're going through, and mine are very minor compared to many of you that are listening. But anyway, Kevin, tell us today about what you want to talk about to help us with our mindset for this week.
Yeah, so the idea this week is what it looks like to operate with a free mind and why that really matters. And free mind, that may just kind of sound a little bit weird, but where I was kind of getting this idea from, so my oldest, he's 11, just finished football season, basketball season has now started. And he's with this basketball team for the second year in a row. And so he had practice last week, first practice. And as I watched him, he was confident and he was aggressive, which is not my oldest son. He's especially in sports, he's extremely competitive. He loves sports. He practices his tail off, but he's usually very timid. He usually holds back, is more of a role player and kind of lets the game happen instead of attacking the game. And this is true in most sports with him. And it's a confidence, but it's a mindset issue with him. But in this practice, he was driving to the basket. He was taking shots. He was making good passes. And so I mentioned to him in the car on the way home, I said, "Bud, you look pretty confident out there, like definitely more confident than you were last year." I said, "Do you feel that way?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I do." I said, "I'm much more relaxed this year." I said, why do you think that is?" And I said, "I guess I'm just more comfortable with the team. I don't know, but I'm definitely more relaxed out there." And I said, that's a key to you actually playing well is your mindset. I said, it feels like most of the time you put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform at a certain level. And I hope that, your mom and I don't put that pressure on you, because our thing with our kids, we don't care how many points they score, if they're the star of the game. Like, our expectation, and we say it before every game, is that you have fun, you play hard, you're a great teammate, and you have a good attitude. That's it, right? Our kids that are playing sports are 11 and 9. Our 4-year-old just started playing soccer. So like, we're not trying to put these unhealthy or unrealistic or burdensome expectations on them. But he puts them on himself, right? He wants to be perfect. He wants to not make any mistakes. He wants to always do the right thing. And that actually prevents him from being his best. It prevents him from playing with freedom. And so it's trying to get him into this mindset of realizing, but just go out and play, right? You practice, you know how to play the game, you know the things to do, and you're going to mess up, right? The greats mess up. I said, but we go watch Oklahoma City Thunder play. I'm like, they miss shots. They miss free throws, they miss layups, they miss dunks, they miss jump shots, they miss 3-pointers. They throw the ball away. They get beat on defense, right? This expectation of perfection is unhealthy. Right? It's not just unrealistic, it's unhealthy, and it puts a burden on you and a pressure on you that you don't need. Just go play and have fun. You'll make mistakes. But our thing with our kids, like, it's always better to make mistakes because you were being aggressive, right? Than because you were playing afraid. Right? We can deal with mistakes out of aggression, out of playing hard, out of making effort, but it's the mistakes out of playing afraid that are more costly and that are more frustrating. And so I think that's true for us as well. As we go through life, we put so many expectations on ourselves, and not just expectations, but unrealistic and unhealthy and burdensome, impossible expectations. And most of the time, those we feel like other people put those expectations on us, but we put them on ourselves, because nobody's ever spoken those words over us, right? Like my son, nobody's ever spoken to him like, hey, be perfect. Hey, don't mess up. Hey, do the right thing on every play without fail. Like, that's never been said to him. We've intentionally not said that to our kids, but there's a voice somewhere in his head that's telling him to be perfect, to not mess up. And it causes him to mess up. So I think for us to realize those expectations and how unhealthy that they are, how unrealistic that they are, and how they actually prevent us from being free. All right, we are at our best when we are living in freedom, not worried about what others think, not trying to prove ourselves, not trying to keep up with these ridiculous expectations. But when we can show up and say, I've done the work. I'm not perfect, but I'm prepared for this. I've practiced. I'm ready. I'm going to go out and have fun and do my best. And when we have that freedom of mind, we can actually perform at higher levels. We talk a lot at Giant about unlocking the potential of people. And I think that starts with unlocking your mindset. When you have a free mind, you can start to unlock your potential. You can start to live into who you were created to be. But when you're always shackled by these expectations and this self-preservation, you ultimately hold yourself back. And then it becomes this cycle of frustration, right? Because you're afraid of messing up. You're afraid of failing. You put all this pressure on yourself. And then when you do mess up and you do fail, you beat yourself up for it even more, right? Because when you're free, you mess up, you're like, hey, I didn't want to make that mistake, but I'm human, right? I'm always going to make mistakes, but I can learn from it and keep going, realizing those mistakes are just part of the journey, not something that defines me. I was talking to a football team recently, and one of the things I was talking to them about is their level of belief and what you focus on and focusing on the right things. I said, if you're a receiver running down the field, deep pass comes to you and you're looking up and you're running like, oh, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. You're going to drop it, right? Because you've put this pressure on yourself to not drop the ball, as opposed to just being focused on catching it, right? Catching it is the job. It's not about not catching it. It's not about dropping it. Oh, don't drop it, don't miss it. It's like, no, catching it. Focus on doing the positive thing. Focus on the outcome that you actually want, the thing that you've prepared for. But when we show up with fear and with self-preservation and an unhealthy mindset, and we talked about this last week, what that does is make you vulnerable. And if you're vulnerable, you're not going to be at your best, right? It's mood swings, it's up and downs. It's you have a good game if you feel good, a bad game if you feel bad. But when you have this invincible mindset, this free mindset, you're able to show up on purpose. You're able to show up at your best and actually be the person that you were created to be, whether you're a basketball player or a leader, a doctor, a business owner, a teacher, a mom, or a dad. Like, you get to bring your best when you operate with a free mind. Tracy, what do you think?
Yeah, it's great. So I know you work with a lot of student athletes, so you're working with younger folks, but you also have some clients that are, grown adults in the corporate world. Do you see that we always, no matter what age we are, struggle with this? Or is it something that it feels like you can get some traction as you get older and really get a handle on it.
Yeah, I see people at every age, right? And in every role. It's fascinating. Some of the, I'm fortunate to work with some of the top leaders in the sports world. People have had unbelievable success that we look at from the sidelines and think that person's got it. And they are a good leader, right? They have done great things. But even in the midst of that, they could have done so much more and with much less stress if they had the right mindset. So even people who have achieved success at the highest levels, or whatever we would this highest level, this still impacts them, right? And even though they have a lot of impact, it's what impact could they have had, right? What impact was missed because they didn't show up with freedom? So because we tend to always look at those outcomes like, man, they did a lot. Maybe, but I know a phrase we love to use around here is, how are you performing versus your potential? And maybe you're performing well, maybe by the standards of culture or the world or whatever, it's like you are quote unquote successful, but what's your potential? And for me, I just turned 39. I'm probably operating 40-ish% of my potential, like in life. And I'm okay with that because for me, that means I have a lot to learn. Right? I have a lot of room to grow, a lot of things to get better at. Now, there are certain areas in my life where I'm probably performing at 90% of my potential. And that's the key, is like always considering where we are versus where we could be, and how is our mindset impacting that? And hopefully as we get older, we have more wisdom, right? We're able to learn this practice of reflection to see how our mindset is impacting us, to see how these situations that we thought were impossible, we actually got through. But too many of us go through life accidentally. Right. And we just keep getting this same obstacle. We just keep bumping into it, wondering why things are so frustrating, wondering why things are so difficult. It's like, it's your mindset. Take a step back and realize it's not your talent, right? It's not your skill level. It's not your competency. Sometimes those things obviously hold us back. But for most of us, it's a mindset issue. In teams, most losing teams, it's not a talent issue. It's a culture issue, right? Sometimes it's a talent issue, but most often it's a culture issue. And same thing for individuals. It's not our talent that's holding us back. It's our personal culture, which is really our mindset.
So true. So thinking back to what you were saying before about expectations, I was thinking, I wonder, because I know for myself, usually me putting expectations on myself, it's not really an outside force if I really dug in there and thought about it. So talk to us more about this tool, the expectations tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool. And I think to your point, it's there are expectations. We have expectations for ourselves. We have expectations for other people. Other people have expectations for us. But I want to talk mostly about our own expectations. So thinking through, and you could label out for yourself, you personally, for you as part of your family, you as part of your team, right? Thinking through the 5 circles of influence, maybe for your own health. What are your expectations for yourself? Or what expectations do you think exist? And then be honest, like, who put those expectations on you? Like, is that something you expect of yourself? Is that something you think that somebody expects of you? Or is that something that somebody actually told you, hey, I need this from you? Most of the time, the expectations that are a burden are something that we've put on ourselves unknowingly, right? We think that they're real, but when that somebody else gave to us, that the world was putting on us, was like, no, it's our own, not just unrealistic, but impossible expectations. So to think through, these expectations impact how you show up, right? If it's impossible, every day feels like a failure. Every day feels like you're not good enough. You're never going to reach the goal. When I was in the corporate world, we had what they call President's Club. So the top 1% of people got to go on this all-inclusive trip every year. And what was interesting is that everybody had the same goal. And that seems good because it seems quote unquote fair across the board. But if you were a new person, and it all restarted January 1st every year, right? So if you started in October, let's say you started right now, it's November 15th. You started at this company, your President's Club goal would start over January 1. Let's say I'd been there for 10 years. Well, come January 1, you and I have the same goals, the same expectations in order to reach President's Club. Well, that might be actually a limited goal for me because I've been there 10 years. That goal should be something I'm capable of. For a brand new person, that's an impossible goal. And so they show up bitter and frustrated day one, thinking I'm never going to get that trip. They could, based on potential, outsell me, right? Based on being a year one versus year 10, they could blow me out of the water, even though my numbers might be higher. They may perform at a higher level, but they don't reach the goal. So for them, it's like, why should I even show up with real effort? Because that goal is out of reach. For me, I can not bring my best and still reach it, right? If it's a limited goal for someone year 10, it's like, I don't have to bring my best. So we've got to think through what expectations are, how we deal with ourselves. Again, where are you limiting yourself? Where are you not expecting enough of yourself? Kind of making excuses like, well, that's just not who I am. That's just a weakness of mine. And we always say, your weaknesses, we can't expect them to be a strength, but we can expect to make them less of a liability. And so to raise your level of expectation with your weaknesses. But I think, just me personally, I don't know if this is a giant endorsed view, but me personally, I think the best place to live is right on this edge between realistic and unrealistic. Because that feels like it's a challenge. It's like realistic feels very doable. Unrealistic feels doable, but it's going to take my best effort, right? Like it's going to stretch me out of my comfort zone, stretch me out of what I think I'm capable of, and almost test me like, can you get there? Whereas impossible feels like, why make the effort? Realistic feels like, oh, I can almost coast, right? And put some effort in, but kind of get there with no real crazy effort. That border between realistic and unrealistic is going to require me to bring my best. And so I think for you to think about your expectations that you put on yourself, are they challenging you in a healthy way, or are they actually a burden on you? Right? Are the expectations you put on yourself impossible and they're preventing you from performing at your best? Again, like my son, he puts impossible expectations on himself. We don't put them on him. We try our best to take those expectations from him. Say, no, here's the truth of what's expected of you. And when he's in that right mindset, there's freedom and there's performance. But when he's vulnerable to those impossible expectations, he freezes up and plays afraid.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So those of you watching, many of you in our world know that we work a lot with personalities, the 5 voices. And so I'd say there are personalities that, I'll just use my own as an example. I'm a guardian. I'm very driven. I'm very work heavy. I can tend toward workaholism. And so my way that I've coped with this, because I use this expectation scale a lot, most every day, just kind of in my mind, it's kind of embedded in there that I can only do so much. There are only 24 hours in a day, right? And so on a Monday morning, I do love that this is on Mondays because it's a reset for me every Monday. And I use my calendar a lot. Kevin's seen it. And I put not just my meetings with people, but then, I put my tasks on there because I'm so task driven that I could task all day long and still in my head go, did I do enough today? Did I show my worth? Am I worthy of working here? That kind of a mindset. And so to clear myself of that or give myself freedom, like you're talking about, Kevin, I literally need to take my 8 hours or however many hours in the day I expect myself to work. Mm-hmm. It's full. I did it. I've done it. I've met with who I needed to meet with. I've done all the tasks, and now it's time to shut it down. And visually, it helps me go, I did do that. And I don't put guilt on myself. I don't put these unrealistic expectations on myself because I can see it visually that I did it, I accomplished it, and now I can go spend time with my family. Otherwise, all day I'll go, no, what did I do all day? And that's just ridiculous. So depending on your personality, you might have to try some tricks.
That's right. And I think for people listening to this is really critical because what you just said, like you question yourself, right? Did I do enough? Am I good enough to be here? Nobody on the team would ever ask that question of Tracy, right? You ask him on the team, like, Tracy does everything. We don't know how she does it. She's a machine. Like it's unbelievable what she actually accomplishes and gets done. And so our view of you is much healthier than your view of yourself, right? So you put the impossible at times expectations on yourself. And so to realize like that's not healthy and it's not true, because then you're believing a lie about yourself, right? That you're not good enough, that you're not performing up to your potential. And so I think, the question that we're always asking is what's it like to be on the other side of me? But also what is this thought? If you play it out, how is that thought impacting you?
Mm.
Like what are the consequences of that thought pattern of I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough? What you play that out over the course of a day, over the course of a week, over the course of a month, and the undermined impact, the lost impact. So I think it's critical for us to be able to do that for ourselves, but two, also, this is where teams come in. To have people on teams who see who you really are, and to know how people operate, and to make sure people are celebrated. All right, if you've got someone on your team who has a tendency to be a workaholic, or who never feels like they're doing enough, make sure you're celebrating them. Right? This is kind of getting out of Monday mindset, but make sure you're calling people up, say, hey, it's amazing the effort that you bring in to our team. You make us so much better because you do this, this, and this. And it's a reminder to people like, oh, I am doing enough. And they do see me. Not that you need the validation of others. It's not about that, but it's about a reminder of who you actually are. And somebody seeing you with the right perspective can allow you to see yourself with the right perspective.
Go ahead. Celebrating yourself is a mindset issue. It's like, yep. At some point you have to say in your mind, I am doing a great job. I am doing well. You don't want to give yourself false celebration, but if you are doing that, then that is part of mindset. That's part of a healthy mindset. And
that's exactly right. And I think to your point earlier, that's certain personalities, certain voices are better at that. Guardians are not going to celebrate themselves. Nurturers are not going to celebrate themselves. In fact, they feel guilty for doing that. Like, what am I saying? All I did was my job. Why would I celebrate the fact that I did what I'm paid to do? There's a tendency to feel like you just did the bare minimum, even though nurturers and guardians will always do more than the bare minimum. For a connector, I'm like, man, good day. Let's go celebrate. Let's go have lunch. Let's go have dinner with friends. Let's go party, And so realizing to celebrate yourself is a good thing. Again, to your point, don't be delusional with it. Don't celebrate the fact that you sent an email like, man, what a great day, But you got to be honest with yourself of where you are and consistently calling yourself up to who you are and to your potential, but celebrating things along the way, right? Because it can be, we live in a task-dominated world. And so the day can feel really heavy, can feel really long. What did I even do? And so find those little celebrations along the way. So they keep you going, right? They keep you in the right mindset. But to come back to the expectations and the pressures and the freedom of mind, it's like that's not going to happen on accident. Right? Like, you're not going to be free mentally in your mind on accident. Like, you really have to work at it. You really have to think about it, and you're not going to get there today. And that's okay too. Right. Again, that would be an impossible expectation to put on yourself to say, man, this really makes sense. I'm going to get better. I'm going to master this today. It's like, no, you can get better at it today. And that's the expectation, right? Can I be better at my mindset today than I was yesterday? That's the goal. And that's the goal every day, right? Because it's not perfection, it's progress. And so to think for yourself, like, what do I need to do today to be free mentally? What's actually holding me back? What unhealthy expectations have I put on myself? What lies have I put on myself in the name of expectations, right? That they're actually lies that nobody else has put on me, but I'm believing that they are real, and they're actually preventing you from being your best. Because when you show up with freedom, you are the best version of you, right? When you show up with freedom, you get impact and you get influence and you get performance. And that is part of the goal of being a leader worth following, right? Because leaders multiply. And so you're setting the tone for your team. And so as you get this internally, you can teach and multiply this into your team. And then what happens if you get a team of people, an organization of people who are free mentally from fake expectations, from false expectations, from false pressures? A team, an organization, people who can show up with freedom can change the world.
That's so true. Yeah. And here at Giant, we really do try and live out these tools and use them for ourselves every day. And I would say we don't do everything perfectly here, but I think one great part of our culture is that at any point, I could ask any of you on our team to give a hard truth, like, hey, are there some things that are blind spots within me right here as far as my mindset? What's holding me back, Kevin? And we could have a really good conversation. I feel like you would be really honest with me and I could be really honest with you. So for those of you who are thinking, gosh, I've got some things to work on as far as my mindset, I would get somebody that's on your team that you trust and just have a frank conversation.
Yep. It's so critical to have people who will speak truth into your life. But the bigger key with that is listen to them. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we all say we want people in our lives who will speak the truth to us, who will challenge us, who will critique us, who will encourage and call us up. But then too often we dismiss that person when they speak that truth and bring that challenge. and realize they're doing it because they care. Like if you were to challenge me and say, hey, Kevin, your mindset is this, or I saw this and wasn't great, my tendency would be to get defensive. But if I can pause and lead myself, well, I realize like, no, Tracy's saying that because she cares. She doesn't want me to undermine influence. She doesn't want me to do the wrong thing. She's fighting for my highest good. And so have people in your life who you give the freedom to speak the truth into you, and then listen to them.
That's really good. Yeah, I agree. Well, great. Well, we are about out of time. Anything else before we go, Kevin?
I think that's it. Right. Just realize that a lot of this, it's giving a lot of information where it's up to you to work on the application and the transformation piece. And I think a key of that is having a vision for what you with a free mind looks like. Right. Think about how you would operate if you had a free mind. What would the difference in you be? What would the difference in your life be? Difference in your relationships be? Get a clear picture of that vision and let that drive the change that you need to make.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm thinking, gosh, we're at the end of a year for those of you who are watching this live. And it's a great, you would clean out your house, you'd clean out your closets, you'll, get your car in order or whatever, your garage. But we forget to clean out kind of all the junk that's in our mind. So this is a good time to do that so that you can start off your next year fresh. So thanks,
Absolutely.
Kevin, as always, super helpful. Everyone out there, thanks for watching. If you don't have a free account with us, if you're watching on LinkedIn or on Facebook and you haven't tapped into our many series and episodes that are for free on an Ascend account, go to giant.tv/free account. We would love for you to do that. You can access so much great information that will help you kind of clean out those cobwebs and start off a fresh year. So do that. All right, Kevin, thanks so much. We will see you next Monday.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. Have a good one.